Welcome to the NWI.com Political Roundtable for Thursday, February 27th. I'm Robert Blaskowitz, Assistant Managing Editor of The Times. Joined with me today, Doug Ross, Editorial Page Editor of The Times, and Times Assistant Managing Editor Krista Zivanovic. Let's get started talking about something that's kind of been in the news nationally, but also within Indiana, and that's this issue of kind of religious freedom, religious liberty, and possibly infringing on the rights of others as well. In Arizona, we saw Governor Jan Brewer veto a controversial bill that had stirred protests across the country, and we really saw business interests and others come out against this bill that would basically allow people for religious reasons to discriminate against gays and other groups. In Indiana, we saw,
and that is not even to take their money.
Right.
To say I choose not to serve you.
Right,
don't
right.
order a meal here. Yeah.
Right. And in Indiana, we saw an effort by a state senator, Phil Boots, who downstate Crawfordsville, who tried to insert into legislation a provision that would basically allow employers to use a religious test for their interviewing in terms of job candidates.
And the irony of that one is that he inserted it into a bill that specifically was asking that employers not discriminate against veterans.
Right.
And he was asking that an amendment be attached that you could discriminate against someone who didn't share your religious beliefs. So, but for a religious corporation, hospital, educational entity, and he used the example of Hobby Lobby, which professes to be Christian-owned and pro-Christian, that this would allow Hobby Lobby then to only hire people who profess to be Christians. And fortunately, it was pulled out, and Senator Karen Talion from Ogden Dunes said that she felt like this sort of preferential treatment is just the same side or a different side of the same coin of discrimination.
Right. I mean, you take any employment law class, and the first thing you're going to hear are there are certain questions that you must not ask, and of course, sexual orientation, religion, those things that really don't pertain to your job performance are just absolutely forbidden. And so, this would be, hello. It's like putting a sign on you that says "Hello, sue me." I mean, I can't imagine.
And it does cause one to wonder if any of them ever took a basic U.S. government class. That's why we have the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and.
Right.
And in the case of Arizona, I will say I was pleased to see both Senator John McCain and Mitt Romney, former Republican presidential candidate, come out against and in agreement with Governor Brewer.
Yeah, and that's the interesting part, and I think it seemed, forgive this reference, but it seems to be a Hail Mary on the part of the sides the side of conservatives who want these laws to try to invoke religious freedom and protecting religion. It seems like that argument is starting to break down on several fronts, and it certainly breaks down when you have prominent businesses coming out and saying, no, this is bad, don't do this.
Right, you should hire on merits, hopefully, and not, as Senator Boots said, well, I should be able to hire people who share my core beliefs. Well, to me, that goes completely against the American grain, that we can all work together, we can all be different religions, different races, different genders, and still work together. And I always was raised to believe, philosophically as well, that was the American way.
Yeah.
Well, in Arizona, the idea was to allow, religious beliefs as a defense to allow people to discriminate against gays. So that, a wedding photographer who, apparently has all the business he needs and doesn't want to take photos of a same-sex wedding wouldn't have to do it with a baker, with a reception hall.
But the crazy thing is, gay marriage is illegal in Arizona. There are no gay marriages in Arizona, so why?
Yeah, I mean, and that again, that was a,
and ultimately,
coming back.
That was the reasoning that Governor Brewer had, was say that there was no example of this happening, so this law really isn't needed, basically.
Yeah, I mean, what we're seeing in the legislatures across the country this year is a whole lot of ideology and not a whole lot of common sense.
Well, and it seems to turn on its head the whole idea of religious freedom. Well, yes, you should be
Right.
allowed to have your, but shouldn't I? Now I have to pretend to be something I'm not just to get a job.
And I wonder if Senator
Right.
Boots, what Senator Boots would say to a Muslim business owner saying, "I'm not going to hire any Christians for my business." I wonder if is he okay with that?
That's a good
Because that's
point.
what his legislation would allow.
It takes my argument further.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Moving over to Porter County, there's a bit of a controversy this week over a case involving a maintenance worker being overpaid by some nearly $17,000
Right.
due to kind of a computer error. He was paid out of he kind of had two places he was working in the county, and so now the county's trying to get its money back. And it's stirred up all this controversy. Doug, where is that going?
Well, it's going to be being Porter County politics. There's a lot of finger pointing of you're to blame, no, you're to blame, and that's going to be going on for months. I see it as, and here's how it shook out. Was Julian Adams was told that he was going to be getting a raise. That they did in fact put in for a raise for him that the Porter County Council turned down, not for the raise of the amount that he ultimately got, but who knows whether he was told a certain amount, and so he was being paid out of two funds. Well, somewhere along the line, he got paid twice the amount he should have out of one of the funds and less out of the other fund. So the guy whose stated salary in the county budget is $36,000 and change, ended up getting paid $50,000 and change, and so for a maintenance worker, which is not that far out of line, I suppose, but for a guy that used his own tools, his own vehicle, to go to the different offices and whatnot, but now what's the issue is, why wasn't it caught somewhere along the way? I mean, every time there's a payroll, the department head has to sign off, yes, this is the correct amount, and they work these hours and so forth,
Right.
and turn it in. So, there's that issue. There's, why didn't the auditor catch it? Or somebody in the auditor's office? Or, was there some hanky-panky going on? All the conspiracy theories. So, this is going to play out for a while. It's going to be a great political story, and poor Julian Adams is in the middle of it, trying to figure out, am I going to have to pay back, this whopping amount of money or not, in the middle of all of this.
And we editorialized this week that it speaks to the need in Porter County for a human resources person.
Right.
The Porter County has a substantial. It's a big business. It has a substantial number of employees, and certainly.
It's got like 750 employees.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Now, an HR professional might not have caught this, but it certainly would have
Maybe put in place fail safes where
Exactly.
that instituted more modern procedures that would track these things and pick up glitches.
Yeah. So for the future,
Right.
hopefully that would get resolved.
Right. Finally, before we adjourn today, I wanted to talk about the merger of Purdue North Central and Purdue University Calumet. They merged their administrations, not necessarily their campuses. Their separate campuses will remain, but the administration will be united under one group. So where do you see this going, and what kind of changes will it mean for the Purdue campuses here in Northwest Indiana and for students that attend there?
I think, personally, I think as a student, you're not going to see a whole lot of difference because they'll have, maybe some back office operation will be consolidated into, one office in Hammond or one office in Westville or in Valpo or, wherever. But I think what you will see is you'll see some of those back office operations, some of those jobs will be cut, and you'll see more ability to move between the two campuses for various programs.
Yes, the eventual goal is
Yeah.
to have one chancellor. Right now we have Chancellor Dworkin at Purdue North Central and Chancellor Tom Keon at Purdue Cal, and eventually the idea is to have a traveling chancellor. I think it will result in cost economies, and it sort of mirrors what's already happened at Ivy Tech,
Absolutely.
where they have consolidated their administration.
And it wasn't a real surprise because it's something that Mitch Daniels, in fact, the
Right.
former governor, current president of Purdue, spoke about when he came and talked to us before he
Right.
made that changeover.
Right. His goal really is to try and keep Purdue affordable. He does not want to raise tuition. He thinks we've really, the past 20 years, gotten as far as we can as far as making education. We're at the tipping point where it's going to start becoming unaffordable. Right. So he wants to find ways to get cost economies and economies of scale, I think.
What's interesting is when you look at what the Indiana Commission for Higher Education was talking about, even a decade or two ago, was merging Indiana University Northwest and Purdue University Calumet, because they're both big campuses in the same urban area, and so whether that feeds into this, could you have some kind of a merger of Ivy Tech, Purdue, and IUN? Who knows in the future, but maybe we're headed in that direction. But with the campuses fully built out, you're not going to see one campus shut down in favor of the other. Right. You'll see still that geographic presence in both places.
Yeah. Well, that's all the time we have this week. Thank you for watching. We'll be back next week with another political roundtable.